When I tell my friends that I live here and they're like, why Portland? I'm like, come eat the food.
From locals to visitors,
I've been up here several times before, and it's always just been a little cutting edge.
word has spread that Portland's food scene is something special.
Every time I come down, you're like, oh, I've never heard of that place.
Countless options with access to top-of-the-line ingredients.
When we buy lobsters and we buy product from the boats that I could throw a Nerf football to.
Creating an award-winning culinary hotspot that's getting national attention.
Everywhere you go, it doesn't matter if it's a fancy restaurant that's on the more expensive side or even just, a local eatery place that pops up, like you're gonna have a good meal here.
So how did we get here, and what's next?
I can't see it stopping. We're all pretty obsessed.
Take a few steps through the Old Port and you will be met with endless dining options. There's pretty much a restaurant on every corner, but that wasn't always the case. We're taking an in-depth look at how Portland became Restaurant City. You'll be hearing from restaurateurs, chefs, food bloggers, and more about what that journey has looked like from their perspective and where we go from here. We started with the executive director of Portland Downtown to find out how the Old Port has evolved.
Well, it's hard to believe, but when Portland Downtown started about 31 years ago, we started because downtown needed a lot of assistance. Now we're sort of in that management phase, and it starts with just a few great restaurants. Street and Company arguably was one of the first really extraordinary places, or at least that got that national reputation.
Street and Company is still going strong, and now Carrie Tyson says the Old Port is an ecosystem of incredible restaurants that just feeds upon itself.
I was working with one of our downtown restaurateurs, and they're telling me that it's gotten easier to recruit these national chefs because our reputation is so strong. That was one of our challenges not so many years ago, is people wanted to go to New York or Boston or LA. Now Portland is known as a place to make your name, because some of these sous chefs will become chefs, and some of these chefs will own restaurants. That's their goal. And the other part is we've got these great architecture and buildings that now have more grease traps, and the infrastructure is creating itself. So it's just a wonderful time to be here.
What are these restaurants doing right?
They're doing local. They're getting that local ingredients, they're local food, seafood, but it's not just seafood. It's sea greens or seaweed. It's potatoes, from Aroostook County. It's all of the things. I think that's a big component of it, is the local approach.
Do you think that it's possible to get too big or too popular? Is there room for more growth here?
It might be possible to get too large, but we're still at a place where there's room for growth. There are still a few open spaces downtown, not a lot, but a few. And then we look at our region as well. I think, while I'm an advocate for downtown Portland, there's great stuff outside of the downtown and even in adjacent cities.
And Tyson says the restaurant economy is so strong, even if a spot does close down, the property doesn't stay shuttered for very long.
As we've seen from places we're just talking about, like Poppy and Henrik's Public House, and Old Port Tavern is changing. So some of these sort of legacy buildings, but again, these tremendous restaurateurs that we have in our community are coming in and taking those wonderful spots, upgrading them, and they don't stay vacant. They just become another great restaurant in our downtown Portland scene.
The owners here at Poppy are the perfect example of waiting for the right property to open up in the Old Port. Here, the goal is to offer you not only a meal you won't forget, but a true escape to another time and place.
You walk into Poppy, it is the Old Port meets Old San Juan meets Old Havana. You think you're in 1940s island living.
That's exactly what Portland restaurateur Josh Miranda envisioned for this space.
And Poppy is the passion project. Poppy is that specific niche that we wanted to do something truly special.
Miranda grew up in Portland and now owns 4 properties in the Old Port: Poppy, Henry's Public House on 4th Street, Blythe and Burroughs, and Via Vecchia.
Because of my background, it starts with a bar program. It does. Having a strong bar program is always been the backbone. It's something we relied on.
Which is why he didn't hesitate to bring Liana Sanabria on board as co-founder and beverage director for Poppy.
My dad is from Puerto Rico, my mom is from Lewiston, Maine, and I was raised in Vermont, and so the split between the New England life and also always having like a Puerto Rican meal at the end of the day. That's what I was like race eating. Balancing those two was something that was like, we can do this.
She moved to Maine from San Francisco about 6 years ago.
So I really was at the beginning of that like national pop-off. That was a lot of like the Bon Appetit magazine. All of those things was the beginning. And I do remember people around the country knowing, like they were like, oh, you're moving to Portland. Like they're actually, you know, they're like hitting the map. And I was like, what? What are you talking about?
It didn't take her long to see why.
Like izakayas in Japan that buy fish from us. And then we have the farms, and then we have the mountains, and there's this like really nice, quaint little life that's still connected to the earth and at the same time like bougie and delicious.
And she'll be the first to tell you it's not just about the food.
To me, it's the human connection. Like the food can be amazing, and I can think it's absolutely awful if that hospitality part wasn't there, which like service is fine. Like of course, like you get a steak, like you need a knife with it, that's service. Like hospitality is that thing that like I didn't know I wanted that they bring to me, whether that's a feeling or an extra little thing, actually something they noticed. And that is something that's really cool about Portland. And I think those are the ones that often survive, or the ones that make people feel something, not just taste something.
That combination of taste and feel is one she's honored to share.
Like I know growing up when my grandparents would come up from Puerto Rico, everybody in the town, like everybody would literally pull like their chairs and their tables into our front yard, like Isabella's cooking, we are here, we love this. And these are generally like farmer meat and potato people, but these things like were so exciting and so delicious. And so while I knew that could happen and be accessible to those people, I am very excited to see people like craving it. Like, oh, I had that thing and it's so unique and so different. And it's simple, but delicious. And that's been an honor on top of like, it's exciting.
When a new spot opens up in Portland, you are sure to hear about it on social media. Apps like Instagram have changed the way we dine and get restaurant recommendations. I wanted a food blogger's point of view, so I reached out to Jordan Brocklesby, the creator of Plates of Portland Made. We got lunch at Luke's, which is known for its delicious lobster rolls.
This is like one of my favorite spots, especially for lobster rolls.
So you were in Boston for some time,
Yes.
and is that where your food blog started?
Yes, I would say definitely the idea of a food blog was born there, essentially. I love the food scene there. There's so much to explore. So I started off there, and then once I moved to Portland, I'm so passionate about food, I really wanted to transition that in my new home, essentially. So that's where I started, and then now I'm here.
So Portland has just blown up when it comes to the food scene, the restaurants. You know, we've had some of those longtime staples, of course, but
Totally.
people are coming here from all over the country, even other parts of the world, to open up restaurants. Why do you think that is?
I think Portland is extremely passionate and they are extremely intentional. I think no matter where you step foot in Portland, you are going to find an awesome food spot. I do think the help of social media has definitely really gotten the word out there, but it's been so exciting to see Portland grow. I know it's always on the top of my list to try a brand new restaurant and just to support them in any way I can, so it's been so exciting.
How do you even choose, you know, what restaurant you're going to recommend or even feature on your blog? There's so many.
That is such a great question, honestly. I think really is the food and the intention behind the food is definitely number one. Obviously, if it tastes good, I'm gonna recommend it. I love learning more about like the restaurant scene in general and the people behind it. So if they have great people, great service, food, then of course, just might be a personal opinion of my own, I love the vibes and aesthetic. So that's always a big part of it too.
It's sort of that combination of so many
Yeah,
factors.
it's like the overall atmosphere and what the restaurant really brings, because when you go to Portland or when you're visiting somewhere, you want a great experience. So between the food, the atmosphere, and the people itself, if it's giving that full category, then I think it's a place to recommend for sure.
What do you think diners are looking for these days? You know, are there certain trends that you're seeing or things that that are important to customers?
Yeah, and I really do think that farm to table, that fresh food is always something that people are looking for. Great customer service when it comes to a restaurant is definitely really appreciated. I think an atmosphere, I personally love outdoor dining. I think outdoor seating has really grown, especially since the pandemic and the push to outdoor seating. So I think people really appreciate and value that as well.
We've got our lobster rolls. Thank you so much.
This is most definitely one of my favorite lobster rolls in Portland. It is so fresh. And one of my favorite things about it is you can enjoy it right by the water.
Yeah, I mean, what a perfect setting for it, right?
Perfect view, perfect food. It just makes it for the best experience.
What would you like people to know, about the Portland food scene?
I think the biggest thing about the Portland scene is you can step foot anywhere. You will find somewhere that will absolutely blow your mind. I think I really want to get across how much of a home it feels like when you're in someone's restaurant, and the people behind the restaurants are so intentional. Really, there's so much thought behind every dish that comes out, which is really special and really unique to the city.
Coming up, from the farm to the sea.
I mean, you can walk down Commercial Street, you can't run into a building without finding Bangs Island mussels.
How a fresh focus has been a win for restaurants, suppliers, and customers. And how one beloved restaurant is taking these local ingredients to put a main spin on Mediterranean.
Welcome back to our special Restaurant City as we take a deep dive into the Portland food scene to find out how and why it's become nationally recognized. Talking with people in the restaurant industry, one theme has continued to come up: the importance of using fresh local ingredients, including produce and especially seafood.
Hi, how are you? Good.
Whether it's farm to table or sea to table, restaurants in the Old Port have access to and appreciation for both.
I am a fruit and flower grower, and I guess what you would call a fruit explorer and a fruit geek, because I grow a lot of fruit that nobody else in Maine does. I'm just really excited about it and interested in it.
Maureen Goranson of Goranson Farm in Scarborough says fresh produce simply tastes better.
In my opinion, it's really important to have fresh local ingredients, especially if you can afford to buy certified organic or from farms who are growing organically, because there is a real difference. You want foods that are local, that are seasonal, and there just is a big difference in the taste.
That's one of the reasons she and her husband went for their organic certification in 2018.
Our main concern was we were worried about the poisons that were being put in foods.
And she says the relationship between farmer and chef is pivotal.
Because when a restaurant and a market utilizes the fresh seafood from our fishermen, who work so hard, by the way, just like the farmers, and from the local farmers, it allows all of those people who are doing those very special things to be able to continue doing it. And the fresh seafood that we get in this area is just like no other.
Organic farmhand Catherine Samuelson has lived in Portland for several years and gets to experience both sides of the partnership.
I think a sense of pride, especially because, you grow for an entire season, and that's something that is very unique to growing and selling locally, is you're only getting certain types of food throughout the year. So restaurants really have to take their time in curating a menu that works with their local produce, depending on the seasonality of it. And so to see the produce go from a little seedling into market hands is just a really special and unique process, and one that I think that our vendors also don't really take for granted and are appreciative of the varieties that they get throughout the season.
Now to a different type of farm, which has become a household name in the Old Port, Bangs Island mussels.
We started out really tiny, just me and another employee and my dad, and we did everything. And in the last 13 years, we've grown the business to a much more economically sustainable size, where we have 15 employees full-time, year-round, benefits. We have a wharf facility on land. We have 26 mussel rafts instead of 3. We have 4 boats, 2 of which are right here.
As Matt Moretti explains, they have quite the operation.
We use large floating rafts that hang out in the ocean year-round, and we grow the mussels on ropes, these ropes actually, that hang underneath the rafts. 35 feet down, 400 plus ropes per line, so it creates this compact cube of biomass in the water, and those mussels are actually helping the environment as they grow. And then we can harvest them after a year and a half and feed them to people all across Portland and across the rest of the country as well.
He says all that work makes their mussels stand out.
What makes a Bangs Island mussel a Bangs Island mussel? So we focus on large mussels with a big, fat, plump meat. So our calling card, what we try to do all the time is make a mussel with the fattest, plumpest, sweetest meat possible. And that's what Bangs Island mussels are all about.
In fact, it's hard to find a restaurant here without their product on the menu.
It's incredible. We've been incredibly lucky. And another really cool fact about that is they tend to put our brand name on the menu. So they put Bangs Island mussels on the menu so people know what they're eating, which is really special and we feel really great about.
Diners we spoke with feel great about it too.
It's just nice to know that what you're eating was grown locally.
It's super important. It makes a huge difference. So 4th Street's probably my favorite restaurant here. And yeah, like right on the menu, you can see the names of the farms and everywhere where the food has come from. And I've actually been to some of those farms, so that's a pretty neat thing. The food's really fresh. So it's a great experience for sure.
One restaurant that puts a big focus on local ingredients is Evo, where Maine meets Mediterranean. They opened in 2015, and Chef Matt Ginn says his journey to culinary success was an interesting one.
I got into the food industry after an abrupt end to my college career, and I came home. My parents gave me some tough love and told me rent started tomorrow, and so I said, I'll move out. I'm going to get a job cooking, and that's truly what I did. It was 2006, and I started working full-time in kitchens.
That kitchen was at the Outback Steakhouse in Tempe, Arizona.
And I skateboarded to work every single day. I'd skateboard to and from. And at the time, I started to read more cookbooks, read more culinary journals. I remember I read my first Anthony Bourdain book, and I started really, the hooks were being put in me, and I just started to enjoy it more and more. And I remember one day, waking up and saying to myself, I'm excited to go into my job. There you go, Mike. Although I didn't make a terribly high wage, it wasn't necessarily work because I enjoyed it, and I was really looking forward to going in and cooking. And it dawned on me that with that much passion for something, that I could make a career out of it.
The Cape Elizabeth native came back to Maine and has been impressing Mainers and tourists here for more than 8 years.
Evo took a few years to really kind of hit its stride, and now we are busy most nights, every night in the summer and most nights of the year. I think that seeing the change from what defined a busy night was really interesting as a chef, when you have to make alterations to the way a pickup is being plated and the way you're going about your service.
The menu features the freshest produce, fish, and meat with Mediterranean flavors. Ginn says the best seasonal products make for the best dishes.
We have this community of purveyors, of farmers, of fish purveyors, of restaurants, and it's a community that is truly working together. You know, I'll get a call from a fish purveyor saying, I have this wonderful tautog. Tautog is this little specialty fish caught off the rocks, kind of shallow fish that eats shellfish. And it's not a catch that you'll see every day, but I'll get a call that they have it, and we'll put it on the Evo menu that night or the next day. And you don't find that kind of relationship, that kind of a reciprocity occurring outside of Portland.
Ginn has also impressed critics on the national stage, winning the title of Food Network's Chop Champion 3 times. But that's not what he's most proud of.
Some of the greatest success for me personally has been watching coworkers grow, mentorship of other chefs and cooks. We opened 12 in the same group, the Princess Hospitality Group, last year. And seeing 2 or 3 of the sous chefs on that opening team come from Evo is something I'm incredibly proud of. I think that when you're able to open up opportunity and doors for people that have given you some serious commitment and longevity is something as a chef and a partner that I'm very proud of.
Still ahead, trading the big city for the passion of Portland.
And I've always enjoyed it. I've always thought it's beautiful. The weather's incredible. The people, the food, the atmosphere.
What the executive chef at Sir Lee's says got her to make the move and put this restaurant in the spotlight. Plus, the impact of awards, what a James Beard nomination can do to boost a business's success.
Back out here in the Old Port for our special Restaurant City. Another way Portland has been put on the map when it comes to dining is through the James Beard Foundation, with dozens of nominations and a few wins over the past several decades. James Beard was a pioneer foodie who laid the groundwork for the food revolution that has put America at the forefront of global gastronomy. The foundation is a nonprofit whose mission is to celebrate, support, and elevate the people behind America's food culture and create a standard of good food anchored in talent, equity, and sustainability. This year, there were 11 semifinal nominees from Maine. I spoke with Don Padmore at the James Beard Foundation to talk about the impact these nominations and awards can have.
We sent out a survey this year to track some of this information. We got one winner, Outstanding Bakery. They saw like a 700% increase in business within days. Now, of course, it wasn't sustainable necessarily, but within days. And those who completed the survey, a large percentage of them saw at least a 25% in increase in business. And that's pretty cool. And that's for the Restaurant and Chef Award specifically. So it does have, tangible impact and long-term impacts.
Sir Lee here on Free Street got 2 James Beard nominations this year, one for owner Krista Cole in the Outstanding Restaurateur category and for Outstanding Hospitality. Executive Chef Mimi Weissenborn came from New York City to be part of this growing food scene.
I feel like I got kind of my chops, so to speak, in New York, and that was just on a whim to learn more is why I went there. And in the midst, before the pandemic started, I was getting ready to open up a restaurant right up in Harlem, and then the pandemic happened, and I was just kind of like everyone else who fled the city.
Weissenborn ended up hunkering down in New Hampshire, but came to Maine every chance she could.
We would come up and get the seafood, get mussels, get oysters, and then I would go back and cook something for the next few days. And so it was kind of during that time that seeing Portland really in that light, and I was like, this is really incredible. And then when things kind of slowly opened up again, we would come up and then eat out, eat outside with everyone else. And that's when I was like, I think I could actually see myself if I were to leave New York. That would be the vision.
That vision is now a reality. Sir Lee and sister restaurant Gather are 100% female-owned with all-female executive leadership.
For me, working with another woman, it felt like I was picking up where I left off, and something that I absolutely love and adore is always getting the chance to work with other women.
And Weissenborn says she too was blown away by the access to fresh ingredients.
Supporting local and really getting to know all of these farmers was just so fascinating and so cool to me on that level. You can get local in New York, but it's not like your farmer coming in with said goods, and there was somebody up here for everything, which I absolutely love. There is a microgreen guy we have our mushroom folks, and obviously all the vegetables, the meat. So that really was kind of the match made in heaven for me.
It's led to popular dishes like their lobster popover and coconut curry mussels, which got the attention of the James Beard Foundation.
That is something that winner, just so special and so amazing too. I mean, who doesn't want to be honored by the highest kind of academy that does recognize hard work, right? So it was a super cool thing to be a part of.
Those local ingredients are a big reason she says the Portland food scene has exploded, but not the only reason.
I think when it is just the chef who owns it, that is just their vision through and through. And so I think that really creates incredible food, truly. I think that is the grounds for people really creating and doing the things that they want to do.
And she thinks the craze will continue, not only satisfying customers, but also giving chefs more opportunities.
Because there's so many incredible chefs here that you can learn under if you're someone who's working your way up. And then absolutely in turn, I think so many of those people then are like, wow, what a great community. Why would I not want to stay? And I think the work-life balance up here is so different from a bigger city, and someone who is coming from a bigger city, that is what you kind of wish for. It's a better balance. And so that's really what you see up here in Portland. You have a better balance, a better work-life schedule, and so why would you want to go anywhere,
And keeping these incredible chefs and staff here is the ultimate goal. As we attract more of them, we're told the food scene will likely continue to expand beyond the Old Port, so stay tuned to see what opens up next. I'm Katie Sampson. Thank you so much for tuning in to our Restaurant City special. We hope you'll continue to support these local businesses and enjoy everything they have to offer.